Joining us this week for Know Your Enemy, we've got Jamie Plunkett from 247 Sports covering the Horned Frogs. Obviously, these two teams 2 years ago in an instant classic, I'm sure you feel very differently and TCU fans feel very differently than we do. But we'll start there with that one. You know, how much does that game, I know it's different teams, but how much does that game kind of linger in the mind of Sonny Dykes and some of the players on this team still?
I think it's still there for sure. Similar to the SMU game a year ago or a couple other games since Sonny's been here. But like you said, it's a different team. And I think he's got a lot more confidence in this year's squad than he did in the team that ended up going 5-7 in 2023. I think the hype around having just made the college football playoff, being the first Big 12 team in the national championship, covered up a lot of the deficiencies of that team in 23. They didn't have a ton of depth. And I think that got exposed against Colorado in that season opener. But I think for both rosters, if you look at them this year, the depth is great on both sides of the football for both rosters. And I think we're going to see another really competitive football game. Maybe, TCU fans wouldn't mind a different result, but I think it's going to be a good football game nonetheless.
Jamie, TCU was rolling those first 3 weeks of the season, starting off with a big win against Bill Belichick in North Carolina. But this past Friday against Arizona State, TCU goes up 17-0. And then for our viewers who may not have watched that game, what the hell happened at that point?
Yeah, a lot of things went wrong. TCU was without its leading wide receiver, Eric McAllister. He suffered a hamstring injury in the middle of the week, so he was out. Leading running back, Kavorian Barnes, missed his second straight week with a hammy injury as well. And the reality is that when TCU got up big, for some reason they just couldn't run the football. And it's really hard to kill a game when you're winning if you can't run the football. And so TCU saw Arizona State start to chip in to that lead a little bit, got it to 3 points at halftime. Frogs came out and scored a touchdown to get back up there in the third quarter, and then just could not kill the clock with the run game. And it ended up putting too much pressure on Hoover. The offensive line fell apart against that really good Arizona State front. And then a couple turnovers late really sealed the deal for TCU. It was a disappointing way to finish that road game because it looked like they had full control of the situation there in the first quarter and on, but just couldn't come up clutch. It reminded me a lot of the UCF game from last year where TCU got a big lead, couldn't run the ball, ended up blowing it late. But they learned from that game last year, and hopefully they do the same thing with this game this year.
What do you think was the big reason behind them not being able to run the football?
Losing Barnes was a big part of it. Not having running back one will always kind of hurt your running game. And I think there were some instances where they could have probably helped their tackles out a little bit more in run blocking. Left those guys on an island, and when you do that with a guy like Prince Dorba, he's going to eat you up. And so Arizona State's front really caused some problems for TCU. They didn't do a ton of chipping or bring tight ends to block in the run game, which I think is something Sonny Dykes would do differently if he had that game back again, especially in the fourth. So against a team like Colorado that maybe isn't as strong in the run, you'll see TCU try and get back to that ground game a little bit this week, especially since Kavorian Barnes seems like he's on track to be available on Saturday.
Going back to Eric McAllister, though, I mean, we've been following what Sonny Dykes has been saying in his press conferences this week. How realistic do you think he is able to suit up and play this weekend? And if he's not, who are some of the guys that, obviously Jordan Dwyer, but who else should Colorado fans look out for from that wide receiving core?
Yeah, to Eric, he didn't practice again today. I wouldn't be surprised if he was out on Saturday at this point. Hammies can be tricky, as you guys know. And with a guy like Eric, you don't want to rush him back because missing 1 week in October is better than missing 4 weeks in November. And they don't want to push him too hard too quickly. But without him, you'll see a guy like Dozie Ezukanma step up, number 82. He's a sophomore wide receiver, younger brother of the Ezukanma that used to play in Miami for the Dolphins. So pretty good bloodline there. He had some really good reps in the first half against Arizona State, got covered up a little bit by their safeties late. And another guy to keep an eye on is Joseph Manjack IV. He's a transfer from Houston. He's had a 100-yard receiving game already this year. He's played in 5 different offenses over 5 different years of college football, and he's just a grinder. Doesn't wear gloves, looks kind of like a goof out there, but just is a really good kind of first down, check down guy for Josh, who's gone to pretty often in the last couple of weeks. So those are 2 guys to keep an eye on for sure.
Jamie, I think I was one of a few Big 12 media members who voted Josh Hoover first team preseason all Big 12, and I felt really good about that through 3 weeks. Not so good about that after Friday night. What do you think kind of led to Hoover kind of struggling through 2 picks? I think he lost a fumble as well. Do you think that performance was more of an aberration and more of a result of McAllister not being on the field with him? Or do you think this might actually be something to worry about with Hoover here moving forward with his confidence and whatnot?
That's a good question. I think that was definitely an outlier as far as performances are concerned. He took 6 sacks, right? And he was running for his life. TCU, as far as time to throw, this year is 95th in the country. He's got less than 4 seconds on average to get the ball out of his hand. And he's pretty good at doing that generally. But when you're under pressure, hostile environment, things can start to get away from you. And I think that was the case for TCU's entire offense on Friday night. So I'm not terribly worried about Hoover. He showed who he was against SMU and against North Carolina. And I think that's closer to the reality than Friday night was against Arizona State.
Jamie, where are TCU fans at when it comes to this game? And the reason I ask is because remember the last time I was there, I got a lot of like, "Oh, bless your heart, you think you guys have a chance," which made that a fun one afterwards. How do they feel about it this time around?
I think they're kind of out for blood this time. I don't think there's going to be any of that Texas kindness coming your way if you get back down here this weekend. But yeah, TCU fans want this one. There's no doubt about it. They remember how high their hopes were for 2023. They were thinking they were going to get right back to the college football playoff again. Everything was going to be great. And then Dion rolls in here with the all whites and the gold chrome on the face masks. And, Travis Hunter does Heisman level playing, just, does his deal, and Shador does his deal. And I think Dylan Edwards was on that team as well, just cutting them up from the running back spot. So, yeah, TCU fans remember this one, and they want this one bad. There's not going to be nearly as much hospitality towards Colorado fans this time around, I don't think.
I love it.
Looking forward to it.
Going to the defensive side of the ball, just who are some guys that Colorado fans should look out for when they have the football this weekend?
Yeah, number 11, Devin Deal is a big one. He plays this hybrid edge linebacker position in Andy Avalos' defense. Devin Deal is his name. He's a Tulane transfer, a really athletic guy, led the team in sacks last year, and can get after the quarterback quite a bit. A guy on the back end to know is number 21, Bud Clark. He's like an 11th year senior at this point. He's a billion years old. He's been around forever. He was the guy who had the first pick six against Michigan in the Fiesta Bowl back in 2022. Wow. So he's been around for a minute. Yeah. He's really good at baiting quarterbacks into making bad decisions, and he's done that a couple times already this year. So if you think you've got a guy open over the middle, you might not actually when Bud Clark is on the field. So those are 2 guys to keep an eye on.
Last one for me is just, what do you think is the key to TCU winning this football game?
I think they got to protect the football and block up a little bit better on the offensive line. The reality is they should be 4-0 right now, and Arizona State's a good football team. You're going to drop some on the road in this conference. That's just the reality of the Big 12 these days. But they got to bounce back. They got to block up better on the offensive line and protect the football a little bit more, and I think they'll be able to take care of business.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us, Jamie. If you want to just let the people know where they can find you on the internet, and then we'll see you this weekend in Fort Worth.
Yeah, guys, you can find all my writing over at 24/7, hornfrogblitz.com, where I cover TCU. I've also got a podcast called Frogs Insider, part of the Dave Campbell's Texas Football Podcast Network. So you can find that wherever you get your podcasts.
Awesome, man. Appreciate it. We'll see you this weekend.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thanks, Jamie.
All right, guys. Go Frogs.